Hi, everyone. It's Lindsey Baker with the Action Hour, and I am so honored. I am really honored today to be with such an effective activist, Jodie Wiederkehr, who is the founder and executive director for Chicago Alliance for Animals, otherwise known as CAA. And Jodie, thank you so much for being here. And today you're here to talk about how activists can be more effective, but we're going to start right in with some of your recent successes, particularly the one with the puppy mills that has just been in the news, all over the news. Let's talk about that. How
All
are
right,
you this morning?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for being here. So you actually, let's put up an article here. We have an article here. Tell us where this is from, this particular alderman vote to close loophole in Chicago's puppy mill ordinance.
The 21st of double check of April, the bill finally got voted in the full city council to basically enforce a law that passed in March of 2014, so more than 7 years ago. We're finally getting some teeth in this law.
Wow, that is amazing that it took that many years. Tell us a little bit about, we want to get into your organization and talk all about that, of course, but tell us a little bit more about how this could happen. A law gets passed 7 years ago and it's still happening. Oh, and let's show these folks. I think you're going to enjoy this, Jodie. I dug this up, a little infographic from the Chicago Tribune.
That's awesome.
Wow.
That was great. Yeah, the Chicago Tribune really did a great job investigating how these pet stores in Chicago were using sham rescues to um, try to basically avoid the law.
Can you walk us through that? The information was there, but it went fast for some folks. Can you just walk us through that?
Sure. So in March of 2014, a law passed in Chicago with the intent to shut down the sales of dogs in Chicago from inhumane, disreputable sources such as puppy mills, backyard breeders, and such. So in response to that, many of the stores did shut down, or they changed their business model to work with Chicago's animal shelters and rescues to adopt dogs out and sell pet supplies like leashes and food and such. However, 3 stores remained in operation, and what they did to use a loophole basically is they formed fake rescues that formed 501c3 non-for-profit status. They called themselves rescues, but they were basically working, with the same breeders and puppy mills that um, that that are puppy mills. So that's what the Chicago Tribune exposed. That these were not authentic rescues, that they were basically in bed with the puppy mills and the backyard breeders.
Wow. And then we have other articles as well that came out. Oh, this is sorry, we're going to get into that in a moment, but I believe we have another one. Yeah. Do you recognize this one? The organization here, Lincoln Park. It's about shop in Lincoln Park.
Yep.
Can you
That's
talk about?
That's a store that the Chicago Alliance for Animals started going to about a year ago, right after we passed our horse carriage ban. We shifted our focus to get this law enforced. So we went to the store every month for a year now to educate the public about why we shouldn't be buying dogs from stores like this, and that we should be adopting dogs out of shelters and rescues and saving lives, and not continuing to create a demand for dogs that are born and bred in puppy mills.
Right. So you have been working on this for quite some time. You started your organization way back in 2015. And we know that you have a petition right now that you would like. We're going to be showing that in a little while. But let's just go back to the beginning for a moment and talk about the organization and how you started out opening in 2015, getting involved in legislation. And maybe this whole it sounds like this process happens over and over again where laws are passed and then suddenly nothing, somehow a loophole is found and nothing happens. So maybe we could walk through some of that if you would.
Sure. So CAA formed in May of 2015. So we're 6 years old this month. A group of us in Chicago got together, and we wanted to basically make Chicago a more humane city and work with all the different groups that were working on different issues. You know, like I had started the Center for Ethical Science to basically expose animals, the millions and billions of animals used in animal experimentation. And then there were other groups working on other issues, you know, like big agriculture and fur and so forth. So we formed it to be like a one-stop location to share events and work together to make Chicago a more compassionate city. And we decided in our first couple meetings that we would, that horse carriages would be our first campaign. And so we started doing educational outreach down by the horse carriage stand. And that was, we got that success last April. And it went into effect January 1st of this year.
And so does that implement now for horse carriage in Chicago?
So it basically, the way the law was written and passed is that no more licenses will be awarded to any horse carriage operations in the city. So without licenses, they can't operate on the street. It got finally through the license committee in March 11th of 2020, which was literally the day before the pandemic broke. And then we got delayed getting it onto the full city council, but it finally did in April, and it passed 46-4. Chicago has 50 aldermen, and so it passed by a huge margin, 46-4, and then it went into effect January 1st of 2021. So it's very nice going down to the horse carriage stand and not seeing any horses suffering on the streets.
So that means the licenses that were in effect still were revoked, or were they allowed to, were there any, or did they run out within the year of the COVID that just knocked them out?
Well, their licenses were good through the end of 2020. So they normally renew their licenses. I believe it's usually toward the end of the year. So at the end of 2020, they didn't renew their licenses. So they had until the end of the year to work. And because of COVID, they weren't out much. And even when the city started opening back up a little, they weren't really out then either. So yeah, so they were very happy that horses in Chicago. I mean, we have a ton of video of horses being worked in blizzards, in pouring rain and thunderstorms. We have a really powerful video that one of our best volunteers took of a horse working while it was lightning out, which is very dangerous for not only the horse, but the passengers, the driver. And then, of course, working them, in extreme heat when it was 90 plus degrees, which is illegal, but they would still be out there when we would document them, working them against the law.
Wow, that's we're getting some comments here. Please join Chicago Alliance for Animals. And then another one. Jodie got horse and carriage banned in Chicago. And of course, now your mission is to get it banned worldwide, right? Or first in the US and then eventually worldwide. That seems to follow the educational, people becoming educated that animals are suffering terribly. I have a couple of videos I want to share with you speaking early on, I believe, because these are 2017. Let's watch these videos.
Media. We are joined here today with Jodie Wiederkehr. She's one of the campaign managers for animal rights activists, and we are located here at the Chicago Bar Association. So essentially, Jodie, for our viewers and subscribers, what is the purpose of your organization, and why is there so much concern about horse-drawn carriages here in the city of Chicago and across the world?
Our organization was formed 2 years ago, and with the intent to make Chicago a more humane city. Our first goal is to ban horse carriages for numerous reasons. There have been many accidents in just the last month where horses have dropped dead, and it's just a matter of time where it could happen here in Chicago. We know of at least 4 accidents in Chicago where horses have been running free, which is a major danger to the public. And we've also documented horses being overworked, where the law is they're only allowed to work 6 hours in a 24-hour period. We've documented them working almost 12 hours at once with no breaks. So we've also documented the fact that they don't allow water, or they don't provide water at times, as well as that when they work them when it's 90 degrees or above.
Now, of course, hearing this about animals like getting hurt or them running loose, we haven't really heard that much in the media. There seems to be a lot of silence about it. So, when you report these documents, have you shared them with the city council or aldermen? And if so, what has been their general response to your organization?
We've met with a few aldermen, and they seem sympathetic and interested, but so far we have had no one who is willing to take our campaign, take it up. We are going to present at the October board meeting, or October city council meeting on October 11th to the entire city council. We'll have some of our documentation, so we hope to really reach them all there.
So that was, of course, 2017. And since then, a lot has happened. Did you want to talk about that? I have another one where you very eloquently explain how the horses are treated, and the fact that, you talk about the argument against, well, what if they treated them better? And I'm going to play that in a minute. But did you want to say anything about this clip?
That was kind of, we started in 2015, but when we first started, we had a monthly outreach down by the horse carriage stand where we held signs, spoke with the public, asked people to sign a petition, very peaceful. But we realized my right-hand woman, Barbara, and I realized at the National Animal Rights Conference when we were sitting there at our booth talking that this is not, it's not going to do it. We have to pick up our game. And so in August of 2017 is really when I say our campaign officially started, because that's when we first started going down to the horse carriage stand and documenting the violations of the law. And then shortly after that, in I would say probably September, October, we started doing daily action alerts, DAAs for short, which is when we started contacting Chicago's aldermen on a regular basis and the mayor. So we were and then we also started attending the city council meetings and testifying before the entire city council about what we were witnessing every weekend: the horses being overworked, horses not being provided water, horses worked when it was too hot, worked during rush hour, and so forth. So that's kind of the start of our campaign right there, is what you just saw.
Right. That was really exciting. There are more videos if people want to go and watch them. I actually found those on your website, which I'll be sharing in a moment. And I do have I do have it right here, as a matter of fact. We could put that up here. But I do want to play this other video. So let's do it.
Critics when they say that your organization might put them out of business.
Well, we are sympathetic to that, and our goal is not to put anyone out of work. I mean, we understand that's not a good thing for anyone, but it is 2017, and we don't believe that anyone should really make a living off of animal suffering. And from what we've documented, these animals are suffering. So, perhaps if the laws were enforced and the animals were treated humanely and they had access to pasture instead of working all day and carrying thousands of pounds on their back and then going back to a small stall where they may not even be allowed to lie down or turn around, that's just not humane. And so we would be more than willing to work with the city council or the mayor to help any of these drivers get new jobs within the city. And we do, understand that. But again, the law is not being enforced. There are horses suffering. And it comes down to the fact that not only is it animal welfare issues, but it's danger to the public.
Now, horses being large mammalian animals, they require a lot of nutrients, a lot of water to keep on moving throughout the day. Are they given the proper, rest and nutrients in order to survive and, keep on pushing what is obviously a huge cart? Have you documented like some of the owners or horse carriage operators, like, allowing them to have a break?
Well, I don't really see a break because as long as they're standing with a carriage on their back, they are still working, in my opinion. So they could be standing there at the horse carriage stand without riders, but they still have thousands of pounds on their back. I'm not sure exactly how much a carriage weighs, but it's heavy. And there are also, as far as I know, no regulations on providing food. There is the regulation of that they have to provide water for 15 minutes and 20 per hour, but there are no regulations that I know of that require food. So, and I rarely see any food down there. Yesterday I was down there. It was the first time I saw a horse eating out of a bucket, eating some grain. But there is no regulations on that. So we don't know how often they feed them. We don't know how often they water them. We'd have to be down there the entire time watching the same horse to document that. And unfortunately, we don't have time to do that.
Yeah, so I mean, that says it right there. There is no way to document it, so it has to end. And now, what is your advice to other, there's New York, NY classes working on that very effectively, but working for a long time, it's been really a struggle. Many other organizations in New York as well. I don't want to I shouldn't mention anyone, but maybe you can give more detail about that and what's happening in the other places in the country.
Well, we have, with my organization, the Partnership to Ban Horse Carriages Worldwide, I've reached out to, anytime I hear of an organization or group trying to ban horse carriages in their city, I reach out to them, and I have I put together a list of all the strategies we used here in Chicago, and I encourage them to implement some of these strategies. I've also had, at the beginning of the year, we had a Zoom call with actually activists in New York to kind of give them the tools that we've used, as well as all these other cities. I now have, I think, 7 or 8 very active chapters that are called, for example, Ban Horse Carriages Atlanta, BHCA. And then we've got Ban Horse Carriages Charlotte, Ban Horse Carriages Charleston, Boston. What else? I said Charlotte. We've got 7 or 8, I believe, and we're working with an active group in Niagara, in the Niagara region of Canada, to help them ban them there. So, I'm always open to helping other groups ban them in their cities. And if I can say anything that I encourage any other city to do, is they have to learn the laws of their city, what the laws are. I mean, in Chicago, we had very specific laws, but they were never followed and never enforced. The city agency was never down at the horse carriage stand. So I actually, when we started documenting violations, I wrote to the head of this Business Affairs and Consumer Protection to ask them, how is this being enforced? And they basically told me that they respond to complaints, and that their office hours are Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. So if you're a regular 9 to 5, Monday through Friday office, the horses are being overworked most on weekends. And, on the 4th of July when businesses aren't open, and when it's 94 degrees outside. So it's very important to learn your city's laws and exactly how long your horses can work, what the temperature restrictions are, when, can they work during rush hour and so forth like that. And then go down to the horse carriage stand on weekends and document any violations you can with your videos, your phones, and get those videos date and time stamped, because that's very important that you prove. We would go down. The first time Barbara and I went down, it was in August of 2017. We got down to the horse carriage stand probably about 9 in the morning, and we were still on the street at 1 a.m. documenting, and we proved that every single horse was worked more than double what Chicago's law allowed. Chicago's law allows 6 hours, and they were working them 12 plus hours.
Now, obviously they saw you photographing them and wasn't a problem, or I guess you could have different people do it if you're not comfortable being, seen by the organization or the company, the carriage company.
Well, they definitely realized who we were, but we didn't communicate with them. We didn't talk to them. We didn't, we were simply down there to document the violations of the law. We had no interest in, bothering them or, harassing them. We simply were documenting the violations. And that's another very important key that I tell activists in other cities is your goal is not to, bother them it's definitely to document the violations. And once you do, send those violations to whichever agency in your city is supposed to monitor this trade and enforce the law, as well as to your lawmakers, your mayor and your city council members.
And then what happens if they don't get in touch with you? And I guess obviously they will get in touch with you when they see that, because you can go to the news media with it.
Exactly. Well, the second time we documented all day was the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So it was getting cold, and it's, the Friday after Thanksgiving is the busiest shopping day of the year. And in Chicago, where the horse carriage stand is, it's right around the corner from Michigan Avenue, which is Chicago's big shopping district. So I was down there from, again, about 10 a.m. until 1 a.m., again, documenting every single horse being worked, more than double what the law allowed. And it's kind of a funny story, because I had been reaching out to the alderman whose ward is where the horses work since we formed in 2015, and he never returned my calls. His office never returned my calls. So I finally got a call the following Monday from his office, and his aide told me that he really wasn't interested in introducing a horse carriage ban. And I told her, I said, well, please let him know that this last Saturday, we documented every single horse being worked more than 12 hours, and that I'm going to put out a press release in the morning. So I put out a press release on Tuesday morning. We got some hits, and I asked the aide on Monday, please ask him to give me a call. And I never got a call back, but within, I think it was about a week and a half after this phone call, I woke up to a Chicago Sun-Times article of this alderman introducing a horse carriage ban. So
wow.
the interesting thing is, one thing some activists will tell me is our city council doesn't care, our mayor doesn't care. Well, really, Chicago's officials didn't care either until we really educated them about what was going on. I mean, nobody knows, unless you're down there all day long. Nobody knows how long these horses are being worked, which is why we had to stay down there the entire day. And every time one horse would give a ride and come back to the horse carriage stand, we would take another video and say, this is horse carriage number 1. He just took a ride. He's back at that carriage stand. He got here this morning at 10:20 a.m. And then at midnight, we'd get that same video, the same horse, same carriage license number, and say, this is the same horse. We would document, we would take a video and narrate our video and say, this horse has a white splotch on his right shoulder. to describe not only the horse but also the carriage. And so we educated our officials. They didn't know about it. So now once they started learning about it, once I explained to this aide that we documented them being overworked, well, then he did introduce a horse carriage ban. So that's one of the most important things that activists can do, is document the violations and get those violations to the officials.
Documentation appears to be key in so many situations.
Sure.
Certainly know that it really, not to draw any kind of comparison whatsoever, but in the George Floyd case, it was the videos that were viewed over and over again that got people, well, one of the many reasons, not to get into that, but the idea of the videos being so effective. And it really is, I think, social media has done so much for activism and for causes, different causes like animal rights, civil rights, everything is out in the open now. And it brings a lot of shock to fore when people first see it and they want to turn away. But in reality, that's the way change is going to happen. And exactly right what you said. It's great advice.
It's so true. And our phones, everybody has one. And
Yes.
the video proof is really what can make change in this world. And so, and I also I've talked to some activists whose cities don't have real good laws on the books. And, that's another issue, but you can still work around that. You can still go down the horse carriage stand and take a 30-second to 1-minute video of a horse just standing there. We got some of these videos before we even started documenting the violations, of a horse just standing there twitching, with all that metal in his mouth, the blinders on his eyes. This horse in particular with the fake unicorn horn. I mean, it just shows the exploitation, as well as the dead eyes. And sometimes you'll get a video of in the summer of a horse being flies all around their legs. Those videos are very powerful.
Let me show this one of Forrest Gump.
So this horse's tail is stuck in the reins, in the actual metal strap. I don't know if the driver sees this, how this horse is trying to get his tail out.
Tail is there because not put on the shit, getting dirty.
Oh, so the tail was put that way, it sounds like. You can see he's got all these sores on his legs, and that open sore on his left back foot. This is horse carriage number 12. Look at the slumped back on this horse.
Oh, do we have any idea where that horse is now? I mean, he's not being, that's closed down now. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're not on Chicago streets. We believe that horse is still with the owner of that company. Yeah, so that particular video of the horse's tail being attached to the clasp of the part of the carriage, the driver. And if you notice, like I said, I narrate our videos, but we don't communicate with the drivers. But by me saying this horse's tail is stuck, like he could hear me, but I wasn't talking to him. But I was just documenting that the tail was stuck. He was you could tell he was moving his tail, trying to get his tail loose. Okay. This was the summertime. And so the driver says, it's so he basically doesn't defecate on his tail. So the one thing that horses have, one protection, especially in summer when there are flies and open sores on their legs or their hooves, is their tail to swish those flies away. This horse had no way to swish his tail and get those flies off that sore on his hoof and that open sore on his leg. And
Jody,
so
he's just complete. This is what I see. It's just a human in completely in chains, dragging hundreds of pounds. That's what every single horse that is doing this, that's what's happening to them. That's what I'm seeing.
yeah, I mean, it's complete. They have no freedom. I mean, everything about them is controlled. Their mouth is controlled. Their eyes are controlled. This poor horse's tail was controlled. We called Chicago Animal Care and Control, and they came and they forced that horse home, and that open sore on his hoof. He also, I'm not a horse expert. I've said that from day one, but the horse clearly was limping. And so the woman who came from Chicago Animal Care and Control did send that horse home. And the first thing she did when she arrived was told the driver to release the horse's tail from the class.
That's so good. And that's so good that you could get him to do that. And such good advice to people. I do want to show here the petition page that you have here. Yes, thank goodness I got the right one. Okay, can you talk about this page here on Facebook?
Sure. So this is actually business endorsements, which is another strategy we used and that I recommend any other city incorporate. And they can literally go to the Partnership to Ban Horse Carriages Worldwide, our Facebook page, and download an endorsement pledge and make it their own and just edit it and make it for their city. But it's real simple. It's just a, one page that talks about why horses should not be sharing roads with motor vehicles. Not only the fact that it's inhumane and exploitative, but it's also highly dangerous to not only the horses, but to the public, to the riders, to the drivers, and to anybody who might be in the horse's wake should they get spooked. So it's just a one-page, easy to send via email or Facebook Messenger, asking any business. So these are intended for businesses to sign. So we got animal protection organizations to sign. Jane UnChained signed it. We got any business. So I mean, we had an online petition and a petition in person that when we did our educational outreach, we would ask people to sign. But this is intended for businesses to show, when each time we would get a business to sign, I would add the pledge to our Facebook page, and I would I would make a caption that this organization has 4,000 followers, just to show that at the end of our campaign, when we finally got the ban passed, we had, I think, 211 business endorsements, but each endorsement represents thousands, if not millions of people. We got two major animal rights organizations to sign our pledge, and both those organizations have millions of supporters. So it proves, and when I would use this as a talking point when we testified before our city council, that I am here testifying on behalf of millions of people who want to see horse carriages banned in the city of Chicago.
And everywhere.
What's that?
And everywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is something, it's just another campaign, tool that we should all use to show that, this is something. When we went to the mayor's office and we protested outside her office because we couldn't get a return call. And then we brought all these pledges to show, this organization has, 2.5 million members, and then they all add up. So.
And that held a lot of weight and helped the cause. All of these things help a lot. This is so much wonderful information you're giving us. It's so valuable. Let's go back to the puppy bills for a moment. And, we like to also do education. A lot of our viewers are animal rights, people that love animals and are vegan. But we embrace everyone, people that are learning about this lifestyle and why it's so important for so many reasons, for the planet, for compassion, for your health. But so this goes out to a lot of people, and a lot of people might say, oh, gee, well, what's so bad? My husband always wanted a golden retriever. We're going to raise them well. And, we went to all the shelters and there's no golden retriever. I know a lot of us find that very self-centered, but let's not, I don't want to be judgy. Let's go ahead and see, like, how do you address that? And what do you say to them?
I totally understand that. What I usually tell people is that I understand if you want a specific breed, but there are the breed rescues out there. And often animal shelters, excuse me, they get purebreds, so my recommendation is if you are dead set on getting a specific breed, go to your breed rescues, look online for breed rescues. And if you can't get, that specific puppy or dog right away, wait. I mean, there is no problem in waiting. But, ultimately, I do encourage people to just go to your local city shelter or rescue and look at who is there, which dogs are there to find a forever home. And you may, like, I grew up with boxers. We always had boxers and I love them. But I love any dog I see. I mean, if I went into a shelter, I would fall in love with any dog. And people might be surprised that when they go to a shelter, they might find a dog, not necessarily the breed they were looking to get, but they might fall in love. And the great thing, obviously, about shelters is you're saving a life. You're saving a life. You're not spending thousands of dollars to keep puppy mills in business and to keep mother dogs bred, day in, day out, living in wire cages in all extreme temperatures. I mean, people, if you're not aware of puppy mills, you really have to just do a search, just type in puppy mill, and you'll be horrified. This is man's best friend, and they're treated like, breeding machines.
Right.
So, yeah.
Very important for people to know that, and all good points. So, is there anything else you'd like to share with us today? I think we covered a lot of information, but is there anything else you'd like us to talk about or you'd like to share? I also do want to go over your website a little bit, so and some of the different sites, but maybe there's something you want to specifically share.
Sure. Well, the one thing that, again, I tell, one thing when I talk with other activists or advocates working on whatever campaign, and by the way, a lot of the strategies we used with the horse carriage campaign and the puppy mill campaign can be translated to any issue. Chicago, just a new group just formed, Fur Free Chicago, trying to ban the sale of fur in the city. And I'm working closely with the woman who's running that and suggesting she incorporate some of these same, strategies because they really work. I mean,
well, let me stop you right there and just because I have a good question. I think it's a good question, and I thought of it and forgot. Now, in terms of the puppy mills and documenting it, how do you do that? And also with the fur, I mean, we do know people go underground, so I guess you could get footage that way. But you want to address like documenting those two situations a little more?
Well, that's the one catch is you're not always going to be able to document violations with other industries. I mean, obviously we can't get into laboratories and film and document the cruelty happening, but we can do FOIAs, we can, use any tool we have. So with fur, for example, one of the things, because obviously there's no fur farms in the city of Chicago. They can't just go down and you take video footage of cruelty. But there with COVID, especially, there's been articles in National Geographic about the link between COVID and fur farms. So we've done some actions to Chicago's aldermen. We shared the article with them showing here's a very distinctive link between COVID and fur farms and the dangers that we are, breeding these animals, for this unnecessary, incredibly inhumane industry. So that's the way that, if you can't just go down to a horse carriage stand and document violations, find the articles, find the scientific evidence as to why, whatever issue you're working on needs to be banned or changed, or, a law needs to be implemented to protect those animals being used in that industry. So yeah, that's a good question. With the puppy mills issue, we would do these daily action alerts, which is something I wanted to talk about, where we shared the Chicago Tribune articles with the alderman and the mayor, showing that, these places have been investigated. These are sham rescues. They aren't real animal shelters or rescues, and that and also one of the parts of the law that was passed back in 7+ years ago is that these pet stores cannot make a profit off of the dogs. That, just like an animal shelter or rescue that adopts a dog out for a nominal fee of, say, $150, because that would cover the care and the inoculations for that puppy. These stores are charging, thousands of dollars. One of our volunteers went into one of the stores last week, and the cages were showing that these dogs were $3,400+. When you're making thousands and thousands of dollars off a puppy, that's not a true shelter. That's not a true rescue.
No, no. I'm laughing in a very cynical way, thinking the true shelters are using their money effectively, and they're always needing help, and they're not making profit. This is totally for profit, and the cruelty involved. We have done some stories on puppy mills, and people can go back and watch some of those raids. We did one way back almost a year ago on a horrific raid of a hoarder with a puppy mill and other animals. I mean, it was a crazy, crazy situation. And it was right before COVID broke, and there was a mixture of all different animals there. And this is just in a local, I think it was in the Midwest, somewhere in the Midwest. I don't remember exactly. Back in the backwoods in the country, things going on like this. And like you say, it's so hard to discover, but in our cities there is a way, and to get the education out there, which is, I guess, the way to deal with this on a large scale level. And you do a lot of that as well. We wanted to show your website here, and you can talk a little bit. Where am I? Here we go. I've got a lot of them here to share. Yeah, so you want to talk about it a little bit, and I'll just scroll around while you do. I'm on another screen, but
Sure.
You can go ahead.
Yeah, so this is the Chicago Alliance for Animals website. It definitely needs to be updated. CAA is an all grassroots volunteer organization. Nobody gets paid. So we basically depend on the kindness of volunteers to help me with our websites and so forth. But yeah, we need to update it and definitely show how we banned horse carriages, and that the law went into effect at the start of this year. But it's a good general website. We do a lot of our work on social media, on Facebook and on Twitter. But we just watching it, I'm like, I need to update this website.
I'm sorry. I probably should have asked you before.
No. I mean, it's fine. It's still a good website.
It was great. I saw a lot of information on here. I actually was able to pull from here, so I thought it was good. But yeah, I can understand totally.
But with our work, it's we have had many successes. I mean, we are a very young organization, but 6 years now, and we've had some really exciting successes. And I think that the one thing that we do is we do activism every day, effective activism. Now, I'm not saying others don't, but we reach out to officials, and we let them know, and we let them know that we want horse carriages banned. We don't want a new slaughterhouse built. We want puppy mill stores to be shut down. So I think the key with CAA that makes us effective is that we're not just sharing articles about a puppy mill here or there. But we are actively reaching out to those in office, decision makers who can make a difference, who can change the law. And again, we're educating them. And one thing, if anything, anybody takes anything away from this, who's watching right now, is please don't ever say my officials don't care. Because just because you think they may not care doesn't mean they don't care. Most officials have dogs, cats, companion animals, just like we do. They just aren't aware of a lot of this cruelty. So it's our jobs as animal activists, animal advocates, to educate them and ask them to make that change.
Thank you. And we have a comment here from, I like to show these, Ramos Rizzo E. Patricia. This is awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I think you are providing so many answers, Jodie, here. And I know you've been at this a long time. So your information is based on experience and trial and error and tenacity. I love this little clip here where you're, let me just show this. I'm going to get rid of that. Nothing wrong with Rod Stewart, but stay on the subject here. Yeah, so do you do a lot of that outreach? You find that outreach helps a lot with the general public?
It's very important. I mean, the key, I think, to an effective campaign is using every tool you have in your toolbox. I know that sounds kind of cliche-ish, but it's very true. You know, we can't just depend on documenting violations because, I mean, that was very important. Our daily action alerts where we reach out to officials is very important. But also going down to the street and, you know, standing out there, handing out literature, asking people to sign our petition. One of the most exciting, I think, things with that, when we did our outreach on the street is, as you can see from that clip, there were a lot of people standing around waiting to sign our petition. So when they would sign, I or my volunteers would ask them, you know, if you want to take this one step further, sign this petition and just quickly, you know, take 1 minute to make a phone call or send a Facebook message or a tweet to the mayor and just say, no matter where you live, if you live in Chicago and you know, you're a resident, you can say, I live here. I hate seeing the animals suffering on the street. But if you live in Spain, I mean, we had people sign our petition from all over the world because where we would protest is a very touristy area. And I would ask them, same thing. You can write to our mayor and you can tell, at the time it was a male, but now we have a female mayor. You can say, you can tell them where you live. You can say, I was visiting Chicago and I love the city, but I hate seeing the suffering on the street. Or you don't even have to ever say where you're from. The key is about volume and getting as many people to reach out to officials as possible. So it is very important. Plus, we would meet locals who lived in the neighborhood where the horses worked. And so that was very important too, because we could ask them, if you ever see a horse struggling or you ever want to help our campaign, document violations, here's my card, you know. And so the outreach is very important too. We didn't do it like, you know, every single weekend, but we did it at least once a month. And we got volunteers that way. We got people with the eyes who lived by the horse carriage stand who could call us if they saw a horse collapse or what have you.
That's wonderful. That's amazing to get the community involved like that. I do want to mention, everyone, please share this video out. I'm getting a lot of great comments and enjoying what Jodie has to say. But if you share this out, look how many more people can benefit, become educated, and share out further this information. There are 3 petitions that I am going to be putting up right in the comments here. One's already in there. I'll be putting the other two up as well. If you want to sign those petitions, that would help a lot with the puppy mill. What are those petitions about, Jodie, without naming the organizations?
Yeah, it's basically encouraging the aldermen where those pet stores are located and the mayor of the city, Mayor Lightfoot, to shut them down because they are flouting the law. And the loophole law actually passed on April 21st.
Yay.
But until the mayor signs this bill, it's not official. So we're still urging people to sign these petitions to urge the officials to shut these places down, or at least make sure that they are following the law, which is working with Chicago's animal shelters and adopting dogs out as opposed to selling them for thousands of dollars, which they are still doing.
Yeah.
As of the last I heard. So.
Yeah, that's very important. I'm seeing that the links, I'm putting them up. Could one of our viewers let me know if they're clickable? I may have to do tiny URL, but anyway, there's two of them up, 2 or 3 of them up already. I did want to ask you, we're getting to the end of our time, and I did want to ask you about horse racing. I was covering quite a few of the stories at Santa Anita before COVID hit, and now people are starting to, gear up again, starting to protest. And I was wondering, what is your take? What is the best way to get things, to get the horrific things that are happening to stop? Basically, to get horse racing to end eventually. What's
Yes,
your take?
same strategies is we have to reach out to our officials, and I also CAA actually actively works with the group Horse Racing Wrongs, and they are the organization that daily are documenting the horses that are dying around the country at either at the track while training or in their stalls. So we are trying to put out actions for them, help them with actions. So I mean, for example, California and New York has horses dying almost daily. So we should be contacting, especially if you live in those states, you should be contacting your local state senator and representative, as well as Governor Cuomo for New York. What I do is whenever I see one of these Facebook posts or tweets about a horse dying, I try to tag the officials. Almost every day I tag POTUS, I tag Kamala, and I'm letting them know every single day. Shows another racehorse has collapsed or died or broke both their front legs. I mean, these stories are just horrendous. So I tag them in Facebook, I tag them on Twitter, and I'm like, and I use the Twitter handle ban horse carriages, ban horse races. Sorry, horse carriages on the brain. But same is true of horse racing. It's just horrendous. And the thing about horse carriages is, yes, there are horses that die on a regular basis. I mean, sometimes it's almost once a week. But horse racing, it's like often multiple horses a day that are dying. So it's easy to contact your officials, and you don't let up. But one of the things that made our campaign successful is that we never gave up. In September of 2018, we finally got our bill heard in the License Committee, which was about a year after we officially started our documenting in August of 2017. The hearing, they allowed anybody who wanted to testify in support of the bill or against it to testify. Each person had 3 minutes. This hearing went 4.5 hours. After 4.5 hours, the chair of the committee blocked the vote. What this chair did was basically blocking the democratic process in Chicago. And it was so hard. I went home and I cried myself to sleep that night. But the next day, I got up and we did another daily action alert, and we contacted the next official on the list, and we kept going. And then we had to wait from September 2018 till March of 2020 to get our bill finally get on the agenda. But we never stopped. And we did it. We did it here in Chicago without a horse collapsing, a horse dying, a person being rushed to the ER. We did it without any accidents and without any paid staff. And we got them banned in 2.5 years. And Chicago is a very corrupt city, and most people know that. And we were able to do it. And one quick thing I want to throw in is when I was talking earlier about the alderman whose aide told me back in November of 2017 that he wasn't interested in introducing a horse carriage ban. Fast forward to March, and then he did in December. He did less than 2 weeks later. Fast forward to March 11th, 2020, when we finally got our bill on the agenda. This same alderman and the other alderman, who are the two main aldermen where the horses worked, defended my organization and my volunteers. I should have sent you that video. That was very powerful. I'm sorry I didn't. But anybody who, yeah, and I'd be happy to share it with anyone. I could post it on our CAA page today. But
Or you
both
put in the comments. People will find it.
Yes, I can do that. But both aldermen, literally, the horse carriage operators and owners were calling us liars, calling me and my volunteers liars, and saying that we were lying about the violations. And both of these aldermen defended CAA and said, you can't call, just because these people want to protect horses, you can't call them liars. Plus, it's not CAA who cited and fined you thousands of dollars. It was the city of Chicago. So these violations are real. They're on video. We're not tech people. We're not making this stuff up. So it's very powerful, because that's one thing I hear often is they will say, our politicians don't care. Neither did Chicago's. Chicago is not like a city of, animal rights, officials. We educated them, and then they did care.
That's amazing story. That really is. We're getting down to our last 3 minutes here. And like you said, people can get in touch. They can contact you through Facebook, right? If they want some information or advice, you're happy to give advice.
Definitely. I'm here. I'm willing to do Zoom calls with anybody in any city who wants to ban horse carriages or work on whatever issue. I encourage, Facebook is probably the best way. You can find me on Facebook. But our email address is chicagoallianceforanimals@gmail.com. We also are on Twitter at Chi Animal Rights, CHI Animal Rights.
Right. I want to just hang on a sec. Let's see here. We've got a couple other websites we didn't get to talk about, but I don't want to go off without showing them. Just quickly explain what this one is that you're affiliated with. We will put all these.
The Partnership to Ban Horse Carriages Worldwide. This website is actually kept up to date on a very regular basis. I have a great volunteer, Michael, who keeps this updated. And whenever there's a new horse carriage accident or fatality around the world, we add it. If there's a new petition, we add it. So that's a great website for anyone who wants to ban horse carriages in their city.
Great. And then we had one more, I think. Let's see here.
The Center for Ethical Science.
Yes, talk about that for a moment, and I'll try to find. Go ahead.
That's my first baby. I formed Center for Ethical Science, CFES for short, back in 2011, to basically dispel the myth of animal experimentation being necessary to cure human disease, and also expose the daily violations of the Federal Animal Welfare Act. For anyone who, if you don't see it here, just type in centerforethicalscience.org. And that's something I hope to get back to one of these days, and start exposing animal experimentation as the fraud it is.
Jodie, there will always be work for you to do for the animals, and I know you'll always be there working, and I love that I made this connection with you. I know we're kind of working around the same circles because I was working with horse racing and hearing your name all the time. So I'm so pleased I could have you on. I'd love to have you on again sometime. People, all the links will be in there. Please sign the 3 petitions and please share this video out. Have a watch party. That would be awesome. Let's get the word out. Jodie is providing amazing information to help activists. So please help her help them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jodie, for being here. Thank you, folks, for watching. I won't be here next week, but I will be here the following week. So don't forget to tune in. Bye-bye, Jodie. Thanks for being on.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. Have a great day.
You too.